On live national television, Jimmy Kimmel looked Donald Trump dead in the eye, calmly dropped a plain manila folder on his desk, and in one brutal ice-cold moment, completely demolished the decades-long myth of Trump as the 180 IQ stable genius, exposing the B-average legacy kid who paid other students to do his homework, bombed his own exams, and spent 50 years lying to America about being the smartest man alive. The lights in the studio dimmed as Jimmy Kimmel walked out onto the stage of Jimmy Kimmel Live. The crowd went nuts, clapping and cheering. Jimmy gave them a quick wave, that familiar half-smile on his face, but his eyes were sharper tonight. He stepped behind his desk, looked straight into the camera, and didn't waste a second. Tonight, Donald Trump once again told the world he has a 180 IQ, Jimmy said in that deadpan voice. So, I did what any responsible adult would do. I called his old school. The audience laughed hard right away. Jimmy hit a button, and the big screen behind him lit up with the clip from Trump's latest rally. There was Donald, red tie, big gestures, shouting to thousands of people. I have 180 IQ, folks. 180. I'm a stable genius, believe me. The rally crowd in the clip went crazy, cheering and chanting his name. Jimmy let the whole clip play out, then froze it on Trump's confident smirk. He paused, staring right at the camera for a beat. The studio got quieter. He says it every single time, Jimmy said. Question is, who is he still trying to convince? The crowd murmured and nodded. A few people clapped. Jimmy leaned forward on his desk. Here's the thing. I sent Donald an invitation for a live video call tonight, and you know what? He accepted. That got a huge reaction. People started whispering, then cheering. Jimmy smiled just a little. Yeah, he jumped at it. So let's bring him in. The big side screen flashed on. There was Donald Trump live from Mar-a-Lago, sitting in a fancy chair, smiling that big, confident grin. The audience exploded, half gasping, half laughing in shock. Trump immediately started talking fast, trying to take over. Jimmy, let me tell you, this is going to be tremendous. I'm the smartest guy ever to run for president. 180 EIQ Wharton. Perfect memory. Jimmy didn't raise his voice. He just pressed a button on his desk. Trump's audio cut off instantly. The picture stayed on. Trump still moving his mouth, gesturing wildly with his hands, but now completely silent. His face started turning red as he realized what happened. He kept talking anyway, getting more worked up, pointing at the camera like he could force his voice back on. The studio audience lost it. People burst out laughing, pointing at the screen, some standing up to clap. The contrast was brutal, Trump melting down in total silence while the whole room roared. Jimmy looked at the muted Trump on the big screen and gave a small nod. We'll get back to you in a minute, Donald. But first, let's talk about what you actually said. Trump's face got even redder. He was gesturing bigger now, banging his hand on the desk in front of him, clearly furious. The audience kept laughing harder, feeding off every silent meltdown. Jimmy sat there, calm as ever, letting the moment hang. Then Jimmy Kimmel reached under his desk and pulled out a plain, ordinary manila folder. Nothing fancy, no big production, just a regular office folder. He placed it on the desk in front of him and opened it slowly, flipping through the pages one by one under the bright studio lights. The quiet sound of paper turning filled the theater. Everyone leaned forward a little. Donald loves talking about Wharton, Jimmy said in that calm, steady voice. He says he was top of his class, the smartest guy in every room. But here's what the actual records show. He held up the first scanned document, and the camera zoomed in tight on the big screen behind him. This is the official Wharton transcript. B average, no honors, not even close to the top 10%. Just solid average grades for a guy who got in with every advantage. The crowd didn't laugh right away. They were staring hard at the screen, taking it in. A few people whispered to each other. Jimmy kept flipping pages, his tone never changing. No special mentions, no genius awards. He passed, he graduated. But the legend he built around it, that part doesn't match these papers at all. Then he pulled out another sheet and held it up. This one's from 1968. A professor who actually taught him wrote this note. Jimmy read it slowly so every word landed. Energy high analytical work mediocre at best relies more on bold assertions than careful reasoning or evidence. The entire studio went dead quiet. You could hear people breathing. No one moved. The weight of that old professor's honest words hit the room like a punch. Jimmy let the silence sit there for a few seconds, just long enough for it to sink in deep. Suddenly, Trump's audio came back on. Someone on his end must have figured out how to unmute him. His voice beamed through the speakers, loud and angry. Fake news. This is all rigged. I was the best student at Wharton. Everybody knows it. Top of the class. Perfect scores. Trump was pointing straight at the camera, face already turning redder, spit flying as he yelled. The audience jumped at the sudden outburst. Jimmy didn't flinch. He just pressed the button again and cut Trump's sound right off. Trump kept shouting anyway, mouth moving fast, hands waving wildly on the big screen. "We'll let you speak when you're ready to address the papers, Donald," Jimmy said calmly, looking straight at the silent, furious Trump. "Not before." The crowd started laughing again, some clapping at how cool Jimmy stayed. Jimmy reached back into the folder and pulled out another document. "And here's something new," he said. "This is an email chain from 1967 between two of his professors. It says Donald requested extra time and extensions multiple times. Multiple times. They even had to remind him about deadlines." He zoomed the email up on the giant screen so everyone could read the actual words. The audience murmured louder now, heads shaking. Trump on the monitor looked like he was about to explode. His face was deep red, eyes wide, banging his fist on the desk in his office while his mouth kept moving in angry silence. Jimmy rested his hand on the open folder and looked back at the camera. "We're just getting started tonight. These aren't opinions. These are the actual records, and Donald's about to have a lot more to answer for." The tension in the studio was electric. People were glued to every move, waiting for what would drop next. Trump kept gesturing bigger and bigger on the screen, completely muted while the crowd fed off every frustrated motion. Then Jimmy Kimmel suddenly went completely quiet. He rested both hands flat on the open folder and just stared straight into the camera with that calm, serious look. For 12 long seconds, an eternity on live television, the entire studio fell into dead silence. No music playing, no jokes, nothing. You could hear the air conditioning humming in the background. People in the crowd leaned forward in their seats, gripping the armrest, holding their breath. Some folks glanced at each other nervously. The big side screen still showed Trump frozen mid-rant, mouth open like he was about to scream. The tension in the room was so thick you could feel it pressing down on everyone. Jimmy finally looked down at the paper one more time, then back up at the camera. His voice stayed steady and clear. According to verified standardized testing records from that era, he said Donald Trump's IQ sits at 124. Solid, respectable, above average, but nowhere near 180. The reaction exploded instantly. The whole studio let out a massive "oh" that rolled through the crowd like a wave crashing. Then the laughter hit, loud, rolling, and unstoppable. People started clapping hard. Some jumped straight to their feet for a short standing ovation, cheering and shaking their heads in disbelief. "No way!" someone yelled from the back. Phones shot up everywhere, recording the moment. The energy was electric. On the big screen, Trump's face turned a deep purple red. His eyes went wide and you could clearly read his lips forming the words "rigged, hoax, fake" over and over. Even though his sound was still off, he looked genuinely shocked for the first time all night. Jimmy waited just a couple of seconds, letting the crowd enjoy it, then pressed the button and unmuted Trump. Trump burst out like a volcano. "This is a total lie. A complete hoax rigged by the failing Jimmy Kimmel show," he shouted, voice booming through the speakers at full volume. "Jimmy, you're a low IQ comedian. Your ratings are terrible. Nobody watches this garbage anymore. I have the best memory in the world, the highest IQ. Everybody knows it. You're a puppet for the radical left. A total loser. This is a witch hunt, folks. The biggest witch hunt in history." He didn't stop for 45 straight seconds. He kept firing, getting louder and angrier with every sentence. "I was the best student at Wharton. Top of the class. Perfect scores. You're jealous of my success, Jimmy. Very sad. Very, very sad. Low energy, no talent, desperate. I built a huge empire. I became president, and now this low-rated hack is trying to take me down with fake papers." His face was bright red, sweat starting to show on his forehead. He jabbed his finger at the camera so hard it looked like he might break the screen, spitting out the words faster and faster. The audience was cracking up at how unhinged he sounded, but they were also booing loudly every time he attacked Jimmy. Jimmy sat there the whole time, completely calm, never raising his voice once. He didn't interrupt, he just let Trump spiral. When Trump finally paused to catch his breath, Jimmy reached back into the folder and pulled out another scanned letter. He held it up and zoomed it onto the giant screen so the whole country could see the official letterhead and signature clearly. "Here's a letter from the Wharton admissions officer back in 1964. Jimmy said evenly, his tone never changing. "It confirms Donald got in through legacy admission because of his father. And right here it notes no academic distinction on his application. 0 special academic achievements. Just family money and connections got him through the door." The crowd gasped again, louder this time, then cheered even harder. Some people stood up again, clapping and pointing at the screen. Trump's face twisted with pure rage on the monitor. He tried to jump right back in, yelling, "Those are fake, totally fabricated documents. I'll sue you. I'll sue the school." But his words were starting to tumble over each other. Jimmy looked straight at the camera and kept going. "These aren't opinions, Donald. These are the actual records from your own school, the ones you spent decades running away from. You keep calling yourself a genius. But the papers tell a different story. The studio was on absolute fire now. People were standing, laughing, cheering, and pointing at the furious Trump on the big screen. The contrast between Jimmy's calm delivery and Trump's red-faced meltdown made everything feel even more intense. Then Jimmy Kimmel flipped to the next page in that plain manila folder. He didn't rush. He let the moment breathe under the bright lights, then pulled out 2 documents and laid them side by side on his desk. "Since we're talking about how brilliant Donald says he was," Jimmy said calmly, "let's look at this. This is a receipt and an email chain from 1967. Donald paid another student $1,200. That's about $12,000 in today's money, to write 3 of his major papers. Here's the receipt. Here's the email confirmation. And here's the student's signature agreeing to the deal." Jimmy zoomed the documents up on the giant screen. The signatures, the bank transfer details, and the exact dollar amount were crystal clear for everyone watching at home. The studio gasped loud, a sharp collective intake of breath, then broke into shocked murmurs and whispers. People were leaning forward, eyes wide, pointing at the screen. Before Jimmy could say another word, Trump's audio came blasting back on again. He had somehow gotten himself unmuted for the second time. "I'll sue you all," Trump roared, face twisted with fury. "This is completely fake, fabricated. I'll sue you. I'll sue the network. I'll sue that student. I'll sue whoever gave you these lies. You're finished, Jimmy. This show is done." Trump was screaming at the top of his lungs, banging his fist on the desk so hard it sounded like it might crack. His face was bright red, sweat pouring down, eyes bulging as he kept yelling threats. "Total hoax, rigged documents. I did all my own work. This is disgusting.